And I'm Brandon. All right. Time for the Combat Robotics calendar for the week of Monday, May 26th. There are 6 events this weekend across the world with events in the US, UK, and Netherlands. First in Wyoming, Michigan, we have the May Midwest Robot Rumble, which is the May MERCA qualifier in the Midwest. There'll be 49 robots competing in 3-pound beetleweight and 1-pound antweight classes. Next, we go to Salt Lake City, Utah, where Utah Combat Robotics will be hosting their Spring Fling event, where 68 robots will be competing along the ferry weight, 1-pound full combat and plastic antweight classes, and 3-pound beetle weights. You now move toward the east with the House of Robotic Destruction, or HORDES, event at ColossalCon 2025. The event is hosted within a larger gaming and anime convention in Sandusky, Ohio, with HORDE as a featured event. The event hosts 38 competitors across the ferry weight, antweight, and beetleweight divisions. Now we head to the southern U.S. with combat at MakerCon 2025, where there'll be 47 robots competing across the ferry weight, antweight, and beetleweight divisions. Now cross the Atlantic to the UK, where the Orcs 8 event will be at the TAP Social Movement in Oxford, UK. These events host 150-gram UK antweights or US ferry weights, where they'll be reportedly attempting an all-terrain style robot event. So very excited to see how it works out. And we come into the Dutch robot events in the 150-gram class, a 3-pound class, 6-kilogram, and featherweight 30-pound robots. Get details on these events and more at robotconevents.com, buildersdb.com, and bristolbotbuilders.com. And now, fans are interviewed. Take it away, Jake.
And Eli. There you go. Okay, Eli. How are you? We're doing good. Thanks for coming on to stream. We appreciate it. Very cool view. We're getting ready for June and NHRL. You're on here because of your well-known 12-pounder. The 12-pounder that everybody is here for, which is Apricot. Let's take a pause on that. We'll talk about that later. I'm excited to talk about that. But learn a little bit more about you. What you got going on? I mean, I don't know. So you're on Team SawBlaze. You're on Team SawBlaze. How did that happen?
Well, what do you want to know, Jake? Yeah, circles of just like robotics, MIT, and yeah, so he kind of just asked if I wanted to help out with SawBlaze, and I said yeah. So I joined at the same time as Aaron Fan, and my wife Alina also joined SawBlaze at the same time, and you know, I think it turned out well. So I'm really glad he asked us to join, and it's been a wild ride.
So you met through combats at Cambridge, or you know what was? I mean, how do you become friend? You know, JMO is such a big name. How do you become friends with JMO? I mean, I couldn't imagine.
It's not as hard as you would you would think, I would say. I think because we had a little bit of a history, you know, we knew some mutual friends, like I mentioned. So we kind of knew of each other, I imagine. And, you know, I don't want to speak for him. You should probably get him on the show next, Jake. But I'm guessing, you know, there was a level of kind of mutual respect and trust there. You know, I'm an engineer in my day job. I had just started robotics, so obviously the interest was there. I actually had tried to get on BattleBots previously. I was going to help out with Overhaul one of the seasons, but it didn't end up. You know, I didn't end up actually going to BattleBots. So I think everything just kind of came together at the right time, and yeah, you know, just get lucky.
Just get lucky. That's all it takes.
Just get lucky.
Get lucky.
Just get good, you know.
Whoops. I'm sorry. Someone said the stream was on mute, but they're lying. They're lying. So our chat is straight. I'm like looking at everything. There's just chat is just lying to me about Eli being on mute. I just checked. Okay. I'm sorry. Cool. So, you know, this is a BattleBots podcast, I guess. You know, what was season 7 like as far as being on that team? You know, did you know that you were set up for that level of success?
That's a great question. So, I mean, it was, again, my first season of BattleBots, of the big boys.
Yeah.
So I went in not really knowing what to expect, right? I was in between jobs at that point. I was actually waiting to start a new job, and I was like, hey, can you guys like wait a couple extra weeks because I want to go do this thing in Vegas? And they were cool with it. So that's awesome. I kind of just had the time off. Yeah, so that was great. It worked out. I had the full 2.5 weeks, went there, you know, with the whole team. It was kind of a learning process in the beginning because I had worked on SawBlaze a little bit at our local office, our local shop, basically. But, you know, that's a far cry from having to rebuild it every night effectively, right? So it was a bit of a learning process for sure. Very hectic. I mean, you're kind of working the whole day effectively on the robot, you know, doing everything you can to make sure it's ready for the next fight. And yeah, it was just a crazy 2.5 weeks. We didn't really get much time to kind of relax and have fun, which is unfortunate, but also kind of that's the way it is when you're doing well, right? You know, we would joke that our reward for doing well was like more work, basically, because you win a fight and then you go to the next fight and you're like, okay, let's just do it again. So it was kind of a inside joke, but obviously can't complain about the success. The team is really great. You know, everyone got along really well. And it was a good time. So definitely something I will remember for the rest of my life.
That's cool. And Brandon, you were there. What was it like kind of watching SawBlaze move through that field and watching that team work kind of from the outside in?
Yeah, so when I was at BattleBots with Mammoth, a lot of the excitement we got to see was through the pit tables, like pit screens. They have near the pit tables, and so we were fairly far from SawBlaze pitting wise. So I think like in our media quadrant, they were a little just out of view. But when we were watching first the pit screens and seeing SawBlaze do stuff, we were kind of impressed because especially like people who went to NHRL were kind of like, that looks enough like it's working like Megatron has. And not to say that SawBlaze hasn't been solid before, but it felt like the level of speed, the level of precision, and even like the additional design decisions, such as like the additional blade of armor, even like the Robocore like Brazilian wheels that it has, all sort of translated to really having the same level of dominance that the smaller robot has. And so we thought, oh, this is like a honed machine. And this is a machine that's been iterated on consecutively. This is a team that is like figuring it out pretty well because the robot does not have any like obvious flaws or weaknesses where like, oh, that's like a rush decision or like rush past idea. It's kind of like they're generally flowing pretty well. And I think a handful of times I was able to like swing by the table at various points in competition. And we were kind of impressed because, especially with Mammoth, we spent a good bit of time trying to have as close to both robots ready as possible. And even with that, we are always trying to sort of figure out, can we add more configurations, like pre-building, stuff like that, best as possible. There are multiple times where I would like see SawBlaze being taken apart. But whenever it's taken apart, it's like, okay, like we're first of all wearing gloves, huge. To people who don't wear like latex gloves, and you're working with like metal and chain all the time, and like grease and oil, it's pain. Recommend it highly. And then like there's the amount of maintenance, like, okay, take apart the robot, figure out all the issues with it. I remember multiple times being like, oh, like there's some damage in the chassis, start grinding it out, or like a chain. That's the chain, things like that. And seeing that kind of taught us, okay, that's the kind of innovation and precision, as well as like attention to detail, they really have to master to get as far as it did. And I think all of the fights, especially like the like very complete way it won a lot of those fights, were kind of like testaments to that. I remember seeing SawBlaze just like manhandle Hypershock at the end of its fight, where it just like dug the hammer saw right into the bottom of it, and we're like, oh, okay, it's working well. And then when it got to the tournament run and started fighting against bots like Minotaur again, and it still was holding up even with like all the big shots and things like that, we're like even better. And ultimately, when it got to the finals, and everyone's kind of like, well, what the heck do you do against a huge? We were all still kind of thinking to ourselves, well, if anyone has a chance of figuring out, it's probably those guys. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it rides. Because Mammoth had its own different ideas, but like SawBlaze, it's a bit of a toss-up, and it was pretty fun. It's really cool seeing that sort of design decisions happening in real time, sort of the ideas playing out. It's like innovation on the spot. It's really cool to see.
I have to say, Brandon, you going through kind of all of these things is just bringing back so many, so many kind of like memories and things like that. Like, it's true though. Like so SawBlaze was like a well-oiled machine, and we were like a F1 pit crew. I feel like every time the robot would come back, like every person had a job to do, and they knew exactly what it was, and they would just kind of get to work like immediately. We had configurations for basically every robot planned out. So it's like, oh, we're fighting, Minotaur. Like, okay, here's what we're doing here. And even when Huge came up, that was kind of I think Jameson's told this story, but I think we had basically a question mark for Huge, because that was the one that's like, what do you do, right? So that was really the only robot we weren't sure what to do. And as soon as we drew Huge, because it was going to be Huge or Copperhead or something, right?
It was Huge.
Yeah,
and then
Huge
on the other
Copperhead,
side,
because
because they had just be Riptide.
Because then,
yeah,
exactly right. Because Copperhead's running the gambit against a lot of the big vertical spinners too, and Huge is like the biggest vertical spinner. So everyone's kind of thinking, well, if Copperhead used the big drum, we can stop something. But then Huge just like chain done and called it a day. And so it was pretty precise stuff, but it was cool seeing like the weird bots. But like as you were saying, Eli, like you look at
I think Jameson's told the story before, but as soon as we drew Huge, we were like, what the heck do we do? I was like, I'm gonna go to Home Depot because we're gonna need some attachments. And I was just like on a call with the team. I'm like, do we need rebar? Yes, get all the rebar. Like, do we need angle iron? Like, just get it. So we just got a bunch of crap, and then had the welders there help us just kind of weld it together. Like, I swear there was like 10 pounds of like weld in the final plow that came out, as the kind of now infamous plow. We were at like 250 on the dot. So we just put as much stuff as we could at the front, and it worked out. It took the hits we needed, and the rest is history.
Normally, I wouldn't launch into a fight review this quickly, but we have this fight downloaded. If I can pull it up. First off, I pirated it, so this is me. sorry.
For legal reasons, that is the joke. For legal reasons, that is the joke.
Yeah, I pirated it.
Talk through what you're seeing here. The two big pieces you see there are actually Tegris, which is like super tough, composite plastic. Yep. And those we had some sort of attachments that you could stick on for things like hammer saws. Like if we're fighting Scorpios, we had a version of that, albeit a little smaller. I believe these were custom designed and cut out like within 24 hours out of the Tegris. We took we borrowed some team's jigsaw and we're just like powering through this thing, cutting out some shape that we thought could keep them away just enough, right? We literally cut this out and bolted it on like out of nowhere. And then below that, kind of at the bottom there in the pink outline is our anti-horizontal plow raised up. So usually you have a plow, you want it to be kind of ground scraping, nice and low. We actually stuck this thing up in the air just to soak up hits. So it's a really unconventional armor package, and it's designed just to fight huge. So we basically said, let's throw our face into their weapon and see if it holds up. So that thing got bent up. It got rebar that we used and angle iron to basically weld on and hold that plow up at that angle you see there. So I think at this point it's already bent. Like the first hit just bent the heck out of it.
But this is and what's important here is this is Home Depot angle iron. That's what this is.
I think we used one of our forks that we like cut off to like mount it. But I just remember us welding so much under there, because the thing is we need a third contact point to ride on, and so that's still there underneath it. So we had to levitate all this up in the air. So yeah, it was crazy. It's like, yeah, we won. We're the champions. Get back in the pits and start rebuilding SawBlaze, because you have to fight again tomorrow. So it was definitely tough. It was definitely brutal. The other teams, the thing is, the other teams have been out of the tournament for a few days at this point, in real time, and they've been preparing. They're probably watching. Oh, it's huge in SawBlaze. Let's figure out what we're gonna do. And we don't have time to do that. We're fighting. We're repairing. We're using our spares up. And they're just kind of not chilling, but they have a little bit more time, right, to prepare. So we get thrown in at the very last minute, and we did the best we could, obviously, with the bracket that was there. It's funny because we have a pre-fight checklist, and I think we brought like 10 sheets because we're like, well, that should be enough. We're not going to fight more than like 10 times. And we literally ran out of sheets because we fought so many times. And we had to like print more. I think Alina was like talking to one of our other teammates, Sam, and they were like, well, guys, if we do really well, we're going to need more. so we printed out a couple more, and yeah, we were ready. We were ready on that front. But it's a lot to keep track of.
Pre-fight checklist, though. If there's any new builders in the audience, a pre-fight checklist from the highest to the lowest level is like, that's so good to hear that exists at every level of the sport. The pre-fight checklist is alive and well. That's awesome.
Yep. Highly recommend it.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Gotta be prepared. Gotta be ready.
So you went to Team SawBlaze. Take us back. I mean, how did you get into the sport? How did that? You were working up in Cambridge. How did that happen?
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, I had grown up, watching BattleBots, back when it was on Comedy Central. I had seen a few episodes here and there. I've always kind of been a fan of like robots and stuff, whether it's pop culture, movies, anime, and even in real life, as a mechanical engineer and, working on various things like drones and other robots. I was kind of always interested in specifically combat robotics. The first thing I think I did was I participated in a plastic ant competition. I want to say this is pre-COVID. This is like maybe 7 years ago. And then I did that, and then that was it. I was like, oh, that was fun, you know. And then a few years later, I think I started doing a. So this was when Twitch was at kind of the peak, I think, and there was all those Twitch plays X, right? Twitch plays Pokemon, or Twitch plays, you know, whatever, right? Basically, the chat would be controlling the game. So I programmed up a version of that with effectively a battle bot. So I made a battle bot, like a combat robot, kind of like a beetle size, 3-pound-ish. They had an overhead saw. It was like a hammer, effectively. And I built this arena with the help of my wife and put balloons in it. And so the chat could control the robot with text commands and kind of drive that around this plywood arena and pop balloons. And I was like, this is the best thing ever. There's like 5 people watching this, like playing it. And so I was just trying to do some interesting stuff. That lasted a few months, and I want to say a few years later is when I was really like, I want to do battle bots. I want to do something. I mentioned Overhaul earlier. I was talking to Charles. We actually went to school together in undergrad. He was one year ahead of me, actually. Yeah, he was like my senpai, basically.
You were so young.
one of my let's see, one of my lab classes, actually, he was paired up. I was paired up with him, and he kind of just like, he was just so smart. Like, he's like, oh, oscilloscope, like all this stuff. It was so easy. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, I'm trying to get like a C here. And so yeah, he helped me out a lot. But yeah, I knew him from way back. So I was thinking, you know, maybe I can join Overhaul. COVID happened. Eventually NHRL, you know, starts getting popular. And I'm like, oh, let me just build something for that. You know, that seems fun. I had previously done, I guess we'll get into this later, but I basically didn't have like a solid hobby at that time. So I had some free time and just started building robots. And
I feel like every time I meet a builder, they end up like they went to college with Charles Guan. Like, so it's you. Like, I don't know. I've heard this story like 5 times now. Remy de Guzman, right? And Rachel de Guzman.
He's very infectious. Yeah, he's super infectious, I think, and just kind of out there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's gonna tell you about like. You're gonna hear about what he did, whether you want to or not. So,
yeah, okay.
You'll all hear the truth.
He was a character on campus, you know, driving around in his like shopping cart with like a massive electric motor on it.
I read his blogs growing up as well, so it's always funny hearing that, because it's like, okay, they're like a few years older than me. But Charles is like right at that beautiful point in the internet where blogging was still huge, and his regular blog updates are like, this is what I'm about. And so I got like a outside scope of what it sounds like everyone got to experience in person at MIT at some level. But I can definitely surmise what's going on. Like, very cool seeing the stuff that he's built, and seeing like the overlap with the robot stuff taught me some of that base interest in mechanical engineering now. And really taught some of the stuff I enjoyed most going back to as far as robot combat learning as well. So I definitely get you. Very infectious. That's just from miles and miles away.
Yeah, for sure.
Jake is currently updating for Charles.
I'm updating. I just updated the topic to Charles. So everyone knows what topic we're on. Yeah, gotta make sure everyone.
Actually, this weekend, I'm sad I didn't get a chance to see him. I was at a there was an anime convention in town, so I had plans, but yeah.
So I'm hearing.
So is that your other hobby?
To the north.
Going to anime conventions?
Yes.
No.
Oh. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry.
Swing and a
I'm
miss.
sorry.
Swing and a miss.
Wow. Okay. Well, okay. So I know that Jameson goes, his other hobby is cosplay, but you're not into it at all. That's not a SawBlaze through line at all.
It is actually, and I've met Jameson at several conventions previously. So he dabbled in the cosplay at one point in time, and I, for many years, was working with. My wife was basically a semi-professional cosplayer. She would kind of do that full time, and that's actually where I, cut my teeth a lot on kind of weird projects. Like we would be putting like spinning, motors and spinning parts into various props and weapons, and we would make these custom smoke machines and put it inside something, and just kind of put all these lights and do all this crazy cosplay stuff with like technology and 3D printing. So I actually got to help design kind of these weird complex shapes, a lot of moving parts, and I kind of just did that in my free time. So that was actually, for many years, that was kind of one of my hobbies. And like I said, ran into Jameson and people several times, going to BlizzCon or, PAX or, other conventions in the Boston area. So yeah, going to Anime Boston last weekend is kind of a throwback to days of old, pre-COVID, back when we used to do that a little bit more regularly. Now I just like to watch a couple series now and again at night. But
what you watching?
Not too big into cosplay. Maybe I'll get back into it. I don't know, but I'd probably do it with my wife. She's really good. She's really artistic, and we're a good kind of pair.
You said she did cosplay as well?
Yeah, her thing was Spoon Makes. If you like search up
I've
Spoon
heard of that.
Makes. You've heard of that? Okay,
yes.
Cool.
The smoke machine. I was recommend that because of Charles. Yeah, it's real. Because I remember because Charles mentioned that was like for his little 12-pound dumpster robot.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, okay, smoke sounds familiar.
Yeah.
And I can remember that connect once again. Charles
is just quite the matchmaker, apparently.
Okay, I assume it's not these instructions on how to make a spoon, but it's okay. It's the cosplay Spoon Makes.
Yeah.
It's not the DIY spoon instructions. This is something different.
Still, she basically has her own company, like
how to
LLC.
whittle.
It's not like a big thing.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so
it's really cool stuff.
Yeah, that was a big part of my life back then.
I don't have a face. I'm not signing up for Facebook on the stream. You guys are gonna have to. It's Spoon Makes on Facebook, guys. you can. Are you sure it's not this? How to make a spoon? Or is this something different?
Pretty sure, Jake.
Okay.
So a question I have sort of paralleling off of that as well. So I know one of the interesting parts with cosplay is that you sort of, like you're saying before, have these weird shapes and weird designs that you get to build stuff into. When you're looking at cosplay stuff, especially compared to, let's say, like old school robots, it's much more like squares and blocks and things like that. Is that sort of more interesting, like aesthetic part that cosplay drives home, have like an impact on robot ideas and robot stuff, either with like SawBlaze, like merchandising, SawBlaze aesthetics, or even just the other machines, things down the line?
Yeah, I'd say it was a lot of that cosplay work is very kind of inspiring, and it is very, I think, removed from a more traditional like box with a spinner on it that a lot of robots, gravitate to. And so yeah, I'd say personally, I mean, I try to, with my designs, do something that's not, super straightforward. That's not the standard. And I use a lot of 3D printing. I use CAD extensively to plan out, everything, every little detail, So I think it's lended itself nicely to that. I became really good at surfacing in SolidWorks through some of the cosplay work I did, because I was kind of trying to match these basically video game models, but parametrically, like in a real design, right? Because when in the video game, you can just have stuff clip through, no problem, right? But in real life, it's like, okay, crap. So I got really good at like surfacing things like that. So like doing like buffalo wings and things like that, you know, it really helped on that regard.
Is the butt on buffalo wings? Did you surface all that?
100% surfaced.
Wow.
Maybe some lofts in there. Maybe some boundary surfaces, you know.
That's impressive.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then mirror it, right? So boom.
Oh, it's perfectly symmetric.
That's pretty awesome.
Perfectly symmetric.
Oh, mine isn't. So that's, you know.
It's a skill issue.
All right, we're going to go to a break real quick, and then we're going to come back with June NHRL analysis predictions. And we have, through ESPN Bet, any of these predictions that we make, you know, you can take those straight to ESPN Bet and immediately put money on those. So it is gambling advice, what we will be coming back with. It's going good, guys. All right. Yeah.
right. Welcome back from the break. So, after our wonderful talk about your coming into Robot Combat as well as time with SawBlaze, we now move forward to NHRL. So, I guess first of all, Eli, how did you get involved as part of NHRL?
I cannot point to a specific moment in time or catalyst, but I just started designing a Beetle. And NHRL seemed like the place to go. I mean, especially if you're on the East Coast. It's one of the only really consistent events, at least a few years ago. It was the only consistent place. And it was like, Beetle seems like the best entry level, right? So just started designing. As I mentioned, I'm used to kind of doing just a bunch of projects in SolidWorks. And I didn't really consult with anyone or anything. I just started designing it. And it was horrible, of course, right? It was an objectively suboptimal robot, but it was my robot. And so that was, let me Google this. This was, my first Beetle was triangles. I'm live fact checking myself.
That's crazy,
dude. We have a
it's
whole
real, guys.
chat
It's real.
for that. We have a whole chat for like nitpicky fact checking. You don't need to do it
had my
yourself.
level of journalistic integrity, let me tell you.
Trust me, there is no integrity on the journalism side here. We are making stuff up. Trust me.
My first Beetle at NHRL was called Triangles. Try with TRY, and I competed at the May 2020 event. That was my first NHRL.
Ooh.
Triangles.
Yeah, that's what? So 2 months after the pandemic starts? So I guess
no, 2022.
2022. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Wow.
All right, I thought.
Look at that thing.
Wow. That's in a minute.
And that's full tie all the way around.
Full titanium body.
Ooh.
Wow.
That's
solid
ambitious
stuff.
for a Beetle.
Solid stuff.
Yeah.
Looks like 2 weapons on it as well.
It's a Drisk. Or it was a Drisk. So
it was.
I consulted with I actually messaged Seth from Just Cause Robotics. Check out his website, by the way. And because I didn't have a test box, I'm like, I need to test this thing. So he actually let me use his test box and test some stuff. And then I also hit up Jameson and was like, hey, can you take a look at this and stuff? So he gave me some advice as well. That's the first time I met Aaron Fan, actually, also of SawBlaze.
So this is your first fight ever at NHRL Triangles.
Yep. And the opponent here, Argon Lights, actually, they did really well. This was their first robot as well. But they went with a more traditional kind of, 4-wheel drive vert. As opposed to a flat-faced reverse wedge. You don't see too many of those.
I love it.
I give you the idea.
I love the shape of this. It does have some trouble upside down, it looks like, though.
Yeah, I added a self-righting mechanism, which was basically just a gear motor with the bar. And I realized that you need a lot of torque to flip yourself over.
I see.
So I went.
Grace enemy is math.
Yeah, I went 0 and 2.
So this is your day one. So for the audio only listeners, this robot is completely turtled right now with no chance of getting back up. So you came back. You brought Triangles MK2.
That is correct.
Okay.
Whoa.
So this robot Mark II. Quite a bit of innovation. You can see a lot of the thought going into it.
Yeah, so bigger weapon on Mark II. It could ride upside down. So if I was inverted, it could actually still drive. Added some ground game. We got some forks on there. And so it definitely did better. Had a really good fight versus Hype Train as well.
Versus Hype Train. Do you want to watch that one? Which one do you want to watch?
So Tank and Spank. I'll do a little bit of lore here. Oh well.
Which one do you want to watch?
Did he
Or
get the shot?
peruse,
let's
rather.
do hype train. Let's do hype train.
Okay,
I don't remember the
Hype
tank and
train.
spank fight. I think I blacked out. I don't know.
It's classic. Happens to the best of us.
Hey. So this is yep.
Angel
this is
Vidal,
Angels.
Team defective member. Team defective.
Angel Vidal.
So this is a great fight. He's got some sort of finger tech beater bar custom shenanigans here.
It's like a 4-wheel drive version instead
yeah.
of a 2-wheel drive common one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We're going weapon on weapon, you know.
You're losing the weapon on weapon. This
Yeah,
is peak
I'm inverted
2022
now.
content.
If there's not a
This
finger
is-
tech beater bar involved, you know, it's not NHRL.
This
So,
is
in 2020.
for those of you who have not watched NHRL and watched the old NHRLs. This is what every fight in 2022 looks like from the Beatles.
It's a little very
Every
dominant
fight
machine
looks
serving
like
the other
this.
one around.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I'm using
another
wheels
question
from an
is-
ant weight,
good.
as well as random
yes.
drone motors for weapons that I just had kicking around.
Mm.
So not
Yeah,
a
that
super
answered my question.
optimal
Good.
design.
Yeah. But at the same time, you got something in the box, which is huge.
Yeah, no, I wasn't really planning on winning. I just wanted to kind of do. My first version was kind of more kind of conceptual, like I just wanted to build this. This one I was like, okay, now that I've actually fought, now that I actually know kind of what's important, a little bit more about the sport, I actually could make something a little bit more competitive. Here,
Yeah.
Angel actually frees me off of the wall because he's a really good sport, and we can continue the fight.
You're driving inverted.
Yeah, it was working.
Which is an improvement.
Yeah, exactly.
Huge.
So
I see this.
I would tell
It's
anyone
taking shots very good too.
I would tell anyone building a robot or doing anything, and really, this advice could be used across a wide field, but making improvements is a lot more important than being like objectively good, let's say, right? So I think if you have something and you just get better at it every day, or you're building something and the new version's just a little bit better, that's a win, and you should consider that a win, basically. So
It
if
drove
you give
upside
yourself a
down and now it
goal-
doesn't.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
now it does.
It took more than one hit, and survived, right? So that's kind of
Yeah.
my philosophy.
Good progression
Yeah.
there. Good learnings.
As long as it's better than last time.
That's
Much
awesome.
like this stream and its technical difficulties. Much better than last time. We're not going to talk about
Up
it.
and away.
But yeah.
only,
yeah.
only getting better.
So yeah, that was my first
okay.
robot. That's how I got started.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to start, with an amazing robot. You can start with a kit. You can bring a pile of garbage on wheels. It's fine. Like Brandon said, get it in the box, have some fun, learn a thing or two, and just keep at it.
And then you came back with
Indeed.
Hot Wings. Was this the next robot after? So we had June of 22 and then immediately, January of 23. So that was that? Or was
No,
there
was one in between. So my wife did a robot called Triple Stuffed Oreo. If you want to pull that up real quick.
How do you spell triple? Oops.
Great question.
Jake, please. Jake, please. You have a
Okay,
degree.
got it now.
Jake, please.
Got it now. Oh, okay. So I see the influence from okay.
Yeah, so
Oh yeah.
that was kind of the second one I helped build. So I did a lot of the CAD and driving for this robot. And it did pretty well. I mean, it's a 2-wheel drive vert. It's not a traditional, it's kind of a weird shape. And just for
Made a
aesthetic reasons.
deep run.
Purely aesthetic reasons. Yeah, it had a good run its first tournament.
Yeah, that's a pretty deep
Nice.
run.
So
That's huge. You went from a robot that couldn't drive on its back at all and just sort of turtled
Mhm.
to a robot that went to at least round 4, I think.
yeah, we always got matched up against really tough competition, like Blackbird, Silk.
Let's do
Silk
one where you
Builders.
win. We did. Oh no. Okay.
let's do spine crawler. Just do spine crawler, man. Just give me a layup. Like, give me
That's a layup,
one, man.
Okay. I was looking at that 17-second knockout, but whatevs. Okay, so is it you driving this one, or?
Yeah, I'm driving. This is my very first fight with Triple Stuffed Oreo. We were fighting a 5-pound, 5.9.
Look at that thing. Is this Casmer's? Yeah. This looks like Casmer's.
Yeah. I can't remember.
Oh yes, I remember that robot. Yeah, this is right. This is Andrew Casmer. Basically trying to work on the idea of a fully compliant walking mechanism instead of like the sort of multi-step shufflers that we're seeing now. So it's a very clever idea mechanically.
And his dad was there to describe it, basically, because he couldn't make it.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're just letting him show off a little bit because we didn't want to just go in there immediately. So we're just kind of chilling.
Wow, even like
around. But yeah, really cool.
Like a 4-bar mechanism on the spinner as well, on the hammer as well. A little 4-bar mechanism.
Yeah, look at that. That's hilarious.
Reaction.
So
and you go into the kill.
We're just trying to feel things out. Like I said, first fight, get a little practice driving, do a couple little hits. I mean, this thing again weighs twice of what our robot weighs, and it's like all TPU and like plastic. So it's very actually hard to, flip over or even hit very well. So we're just kind of bullying them.
What I say, this is what every fight in 2022 looks like. This is the same. If you watch a Beetle fight from 2022, they all look like this, dude. I don't know what happened that year.
One robot tends to dominate the other.
So triple.
Well, I think the go ahead.
Triple Stuffed Oreo was just kind of a fun invertible, kind of a cool shape.
Whoa! Look at the legs when it's upside down. It looks like a crab.
Spine crawler. So spine crawler is trying to self-right. Very weird. But go on, Eli.
No, that's it really. It was just kind of a cool design. Again, Alina studied like architecture. Like she's super artsy and likes to combine kind of these cool shapes and stuff. So that was the inspiration. We crammed it into a battle bot. So that was fun. So we went from here to Hot Wings. Yes.
Okay. And so that was a big break, like as far as design. I think Hot Wings was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. How did you get there?
Great question, Jake. Great question.
Yeah.
Well, I answer some of this in my blog if you want to check that out.
You can plug
what's the name of the blog again?
Now. This would be a great time to plug your your blog.
All right, let's see here. I'll pull it up in the YouTube chat here. But
yes,
it took a while, like you said. I was actually working on Apricot as well as Hot Wings, similar time frames.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it took a while to figure out, but basically, Hot Wings, I really wanted to invent a brand new weapon type, like not even like a small change, like literally a new weapon that has basically never been seen. And I was just kind of dead set on that one kind of crazy thing. So it took a lot of prototyping, it took a lot of testing, just to get it to all come together. And this is the very first version, basically. I kind of went all out.
Where did that desire,
like 2 arms shuffler, like, I just went all out basically and threw everything together in one crazy robot.
Where did that desire come from? You had been to NHRL 3 or 4 times. You had been competing up in Cambridge. Like, where did that desire to like make a brand new weapon? Where did that come from?
I think I really just wanted to kind of push the boundary, push myself as well to do something new and different and kind of challenge myself and learn something new. And I think that's just how I am, basically. I'm not going to play it safe. I'm not going to do something that's like a sure thing. this is my chance. Like I do that basically, you know, in my day job, right? If I'm engineering robots that need to survive, you know, out in the field, and drones that need to fly, you know, if one thing goes wrong, they crash. So this is kind of my chance to like push the limits of materials, you know, push the limits of, you know, everything, and just kind of go for it. So I think I just kind of set that for myself, and try to have fun with it, you know?
Yeah. So, okay, into
I know
some...
many builders do similar. Not many builders can, like, get to that point. Sorry, Jake. Sorry, Jake.
No, I'm sorry. Getting into some fan questions about Hot Wings. So, how much power did the heating elements drain? And, you know, you can kind of do rough calculations about how much a motor drains, but how did you go about developing the power system? What even is the power system for the glow plugs?
So every version of Hot Wings and Buffalo Wings has been powered with a DC voltage resistive heating element. So it's basically a soldering iron. Well, it's a resistive heating element, right? So it's basically a form of soldering iron, and it started out as 3D printing hot ends, right?
Yeah.
Which are usually 12 volt or 24 volt systems. You have a little heating cartridge in there, and that's perfect, right? For a Beetle, 12 volt is like a 3S system, 3S LiPo. 24 volts like a 6S. It's perfect. So I basically ordered a bunch of different systems, a bunch of different parts and components, tested them out, kind of ran them at different voltages. The very first version I controlled with literally a DC motor ESC, because it's the same thing. You're controlling voltage and you're supplying current. So
it's just a contactor at that point, right?
Yeah, it's in terms of power draw, it's the weapon's effectively the same as like a spinner. I mean, you're applying a constant current. I'm sizing the battery just to last the whole fight, and I'm using standard batteries, you know, like a 4S 850 milliamp hour battery. So the power draw is on par with basically a spinner. So it works out really well as long as you are controlling that heat into like a very small area. It actually doesn't take a lot of energy to heat it up super duper hot. And as I go from the 3D printer hot ends to like glow plugs and soldering irons, the principle is the same. You want to heat up a small area super hot, and the math basically works out great.
So how? I mean, you're saying it's the exact same as a spinner. I mean, what milliamp hour are you running? So you're on 3S. How many mAh?
Yeah, so you can see right here the first version, or one of the first few versions was a 4S 850 milliamp hour battery. Oh,
so I'm sorry, I'm actively looking at it. Okay, cool. so that's very in line with like what you would run on a 3-pound spinner.
Yeah, like a good size vert, or
like your average battery size about. So in a sense, Hot Wings, Buffalo Wings, still pretty common on the base. Units being applied differently.
Yeah, pretty much. That part was the easiest part to figure out. Getting the arm mechanism and the shufflers. I mean, when I designed Hot Wings, there was like 2 or 3 people doing shufflers. It wasn't like it is nowadays. So
yeah. So
now that's been ruined.
So do you if you want to hit a little controversial topic, where do you think the future? Most events have gone down to 125% bonus. Do you think that Hot Wings would be able to survive at NHRL at 125%?
So I actually abandoned Hot Wings and moved to Buffalo Wings. If you're up to date, I've been doing Buffalo Wings.
Sorry. Get your lore there, Jay. Come on.
Where's the journalistic integrity? Not fact checking. I'm sorry.
Disappointing. Disappointing, but I can't say unsurprising. So
this is the lies and speculation stream, bud. Look around.
So I actually moved to Buffalo Wings in part due to effectively the nerfs that were happening around shufflers, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't think Hot Wings was going to be able. I didn't think I was going to be able to make Hot Wings any better at 4.5 pounds than I had already done at 5 pounds. So that's when I pivoted to buffalo wings. I said I'm going to reduce the weight of the arm actuators. I'm going to reduce the weight of the shufflers by making them one-sided, basically. So they have half the number of feet. I don't need top and bottom feet. I just need bottom feet. And simplifying that. And through a lot of these changes, I was able to get the weight much lower. So to answer your question, I mean, I think if you do like the spark bonus, which I think is only like a 25% weight bonus, it's tough. It's tough because I basically have two weapons. They need to be pretty big, pretty long to kind of reach into the areas of the opponent that you want to damage. You know, you want to get past the front armor, you want to get past the forks. It's pretty tough out here for a non-meta control bot. So yeah. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. So I mean, to answer the question, so are you down to 125% on buffalo wings?
For sure, I can make buffalo wings within that weight. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I made a version of buffalo wings that was basically 4 pounds, so it could definitely be done. Can it be competitive and viable at that weight? I'm not sure. I'm still fighting a couple pretty core issues with buffalo wings, and just because it's just so hard to have that level of complexity on such a small weight limit, right? So, yeah, I'm still fighting that battle, but I think it's definitely doable. I'm taking a kind of a break right now from the buffalo wings, just because life is going on, you know, and I'm working on a new robot right now, so doing something different.
So, and that gets us to the title robot, okay, of the stream. I think that people have been waiting for it. It's one of my favorite robots of all time, just because it's hilarious, dude. So, you know, I was very early in the sport, and it captured me in just the size and the chaos.
Yeah.
What is Apricot to you?
First of all, it's Apricot. Thank you very much.
Okay.
There it is.
Okay.
There it is. There's a journalism.
I think that's one of the questions that someone asked, actually. They're like,
how is it pronounced?
Yes.
How do you pronounce it?
To be clear, I don't really care how you pronounce it. I'm just making fun of you, Jake. But
no, it's okay.
Think I just wanted to, I don't know. I like I said, I literally don't know how my mind works. I just like build crazy robot, and then I'm like, oh, big weapon, funny, and you know, just go for it. So, I don't know. It just seemed like the weapons in the 12-pound weren't big enough, I think. So I'm like, let me show you guys how it's done. Hold my beer. So yeah.
So how big? So what's the diameter on that spinner?
So the diameter on this one is 600 millimeters, or for the Americans in the chat, about 24 inches. And funnily enough, the first fight, I fact checked that. Okay, round up. Yep. Okay.
24 inches.
6
He's
inches.
Inflating it. He's inflating the number. Wait, hang on. Roll back. Are you not from America? Are you Canadian?
No, I'm an engineer, Jake. We learn metric in school.
He's so true. He's so true for that.
Okay.
Come on, man.
I'll take the shade. I'll take that shade. I'll eat that shade.
Most mechanical engineers I know have to learn both, basically.
Yes,
because the imperial system is just so ingrained in a lot of things, and the metric is honestly a better system. There's my hot take for the day. You're welcome.
I design
Memorial
everything
Day, no less, in the United States. That's crazy.
I do something awful because I'm a machinist. I design everything in millimeters because I'm an engineer, and then I machine everything in inch.
That's what I'm saying, right?
There are two wolves inside of you, and they both hate each other.
Yeah,
because like one thou is a quarter of a millimeter.
0.04, right?
Quarter. .025 millimeter.
0.25. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
5,000.
Don't do math after
Yeah.
8 p.m., guys.
Yeah, that's why I'm just typing it into Google and letting it do it for me. Because I can't. I'm not
The world
that quick
system
with
is
it.
very messed up. That's weird. We're just learning that the conflict in the world is never going to get peace very soon, unfortunately. So long as Imperial and Metric are allowed to exist in the same space, it's just gonna be wrong.
Yeah. Okay. 600 millimeters. Okay. 24
Yeah, so
inches.
Massive bar.
Okay,
Big
so
one.
actually,
Big bar.
Two key parts of the Apricot design is
Yes.
there was a large bearing I had bought again off of guess who I bought this bearing from?
Was it Charles?
Charles
It
Guan.
was Charles Guan.
Charles
I bought a
Guan.
stack of these just massive bearings. He was just trying to get rid of them, so I got them for really cheap. And I also had, from my last startup that had closed down, I had a bunch of large drone motors. So like these are like pancake style.
Yeah.
And they're just kicking around, in the shop, right? So I take one of those, I take the bearing, and I'm like, this is a match made in heaven. So I'm trying to figure out how can I use basically these old parts I have and make a robot out of it. So that was part of the reason why I just picked a really large weapon, because I just had this super torquey motor that I could use. So Apricot's actually kind of just thrown together from spare parts and like a super minimal design. And that's the origin of it.
And that's the
You know what? That's I like the lore.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
here's the thing. It's like now having understood the Charles Guan background and now hearing the Charles Guan connection, I'm like, wow, this is actually a momentous buildup, like a culmination of the Charles influence just permeating through all of it. This actually is making the robot even more incredible the more and more I hear about it.
Well, I'm glad. I'm sure he'll be tickled if he ever watches this.
Is the picture that I was thinking.
He likes.
Look, I like this. I was a day one fan. I liked that photo.
Yeah. So like literally, this is a brushless Rage that I had from Charles that I had actually bought to use in some other robotics project. I had a Fat Boy ESC just kicking around, and then I bought literally the cheapest motors you could buy, like these like the 700. I don't even remember what they're called, but they're like $20 or $10 each. Ordered those from China, and I'm like, boom, robot, right? and it cost like, basically the main expense was I had to buy the top plate, bottom plate, and then the weapons, right? So it ended up being relatively expensive just because it's a massive robot. But but yeah. So there's the motor.
There's that motor. So did you only have one of these when you built it?
No, I had 8 of them.
Okay.
So
okay.
I had plenty of spares.
So is the new one built off of the same architecture?
So the new one uses the same motor, the same weapon blade, and the same bearing that I just mentioned. So those are all Apricot originals.
That's a very particular description you're giving here. Very precise.
Yeah.
This disc.
So
this disc is hilarious.
Yeah. I mean,
oh my gosh,
it's a pretty serious blade.
So how much?
Those
how
at
much
home
does the blade weigh?
It's like a 2-foot diameter.
Yeah, the disc is even heavier than the bar. I don't even know if we're gonna have weight for the disc in the new design, because the weight is just so hard to fit these massive weapon assembly and it's just so hard to make weight.
Yeah.
It's like the size
wheel
of your
guards
torso.
are
That's
not
nuts.
yellow.
Wheel guards? You mean bigger weapon?
Hey, dude, if you're
So
spinning,
true.
you're winning. If that blade is spinning, there's no way you can hit the wheels. Trust me.
Yep.
Yeah. Why do you post so many GIFs, man? What the hell?
That's my main form of communication, actually.
Oh
I
my
should probably
god.
see a doctor about that, but I do that. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what
If you know
audio
me-
only heads miss out on, is me scrolling through Eli's post history, and it's like 99% GIFs.
It's like GIF after GIF, yeah.
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 That's brutal.
For the podcast, for the stream watchers, you get to see
Audio.
Jake live streaming Discord. For the audio listeners, you just get to hear them reacting to Discord. Tune into the stream 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Tuesdays about.
So yeah, we're bringing Apricot back and for June in about 2 weeks, and it's gonna be fun working with Jameson and Aaron and my wife Alina are all chipping in, and it's gonna be bigger than ever.
It's gonna be more fruity.
That's all I can say. It's gonna be bigger. It's gonna be more fruity. Woo! I don't want to spoil the whole thing, so yeah, tune in.
Wow, no, that's gonna be impressive stuff. And
I can't wait for
naturally, because of all the
it's so funny.
Like the
so
really
you did run
cool
the
designs here, like Apricot, you get more.
You did run the disc against Hooligan. Oh my gosh.
Yep, I ran the disc against Hooligan because I wanted a little bit more defense. And the whole thing is just, 100% weapon, so very, very unstable. I ran the bar against DBSC-12, which actually has an also massive weapon for a 12-pounder. Mine was just slightly longer reach, and I hit them, I think, on their pulley like immediately, just because the height was just perfect. So it was a bad matchup for them. But
that's actually crazy. So DB, oh my gosh. Okay, my 12-pound blower is showing. DBSC-12 became 22 inches of democracy, which then became 22 inches of monarchy. That is also fighting in June. That's crazy. So you have a robot that has never fought outside of, like, these robots have never, oh my gosh. Apricot has always fought, I don't know, I don't know. Ask someone else for something smooth to say about that. But yeah, they're both fighting again. That is so. Look, and they're both at the top. They're both at the top of the thing. I was gonna scroll down. Yeah. So maybe thinking about that matchup again. Now it's run by Lyndon and Jillian. How do you how do you feel about that?
Sorry, I had muted myself. Yeah.
Hello.
There it is. Honestly. There it is.
He was giving me the silent treatment.
I was apologizing for pronouncing GIF incorrectly. But yeah, no, I'm feeling really good.
Say
honestly.
it right.
I have 2 inches of reach on their weapon, right? So, you just need a small advantage, I think, to win that battle. So,
yeah,
I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah. Okay.
Ooh, okay. That'd be exciting.
Okay. I mean, how I feel kind of bad, right? Because
because the last time I Googled,
weapon, 2 inches, yeah. Like I said,
yeah.
I mean, I would feel bad if you're like, all right, it's like the fork game, right? Like you show up with like, foot-long forks on the front of your robot, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna win the ground game, and then someone else shows up with like, 13-inch forks, and you're like, oh my, like, I can't believe they've one-upped me. It's like the Price is Right thing where they're like, yeah, I'll bid $6,000, and the next guy's like $6,001, and you're like, come on, bro.
Well,
it kind of feels like that.
Oh my gosh, that horizontal game is so ridiculous. That's why I went to a 12-inch bar on max for one of my configs, is because Caldera was 10.5 inches, and it was just like, okay, and the reason why it's 12 inches is because like the next one that I could find that was, a mid cutter was like 11. I'm not going to say who it is, but it was like 11.5. So I'm like one up from that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then, last May, I've got a 12-inch bar. Kilojoule David Dreyer showed up with a 12.5-inch bar, and so it's just like,
It's like, now I gotta fit a 13-inch bar somehow,
Yeah, right.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, but the last time I checked, 22 inches is less than 600 millimeters for the Canadians in the chat.
So like I said, yeah, feeling pretty good. Any horizontal, I think Apricot would be a really good matchup against.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons. But yeah, it should be fun. Either way, I mean, regardless of who we fight, I'm sure it will be entertaining. I promise you that. So
That's true. How many DMs did I send to you before you decided to bring it back?
I think I counted, and it was in the hundreds. It was,
oh wow,
there was a lot.
That's low end. Okay.
That's humiliating. Are you gonna bring merch?
Merch?
Yes.
I think we're gonna work on a T-shirt, but kind of last minute, so I can't make any promises. Maybe we'll just have our, a little bit of a uniform. Shooting some T-shirt ideas around, as Jake knows, I think. But yeah, we'll see. Sorry, no promises on the merch. Apricot does really well. You're gonna see it back at finals, so maybe that's a good opportunity there.
Apricot qualification. However, whichever you want it to be.
See, there it is. There's the war.
The real Apricot is in our hearts. Okay.
Man. So I guess another question. Excuse me. Another question that goes with that. Is there a reason why you chose it? Like that particular fruit? Is that the most dangerous fruit? Is that why you chose it?
There's actually a very specific reason why I chose the name Apricot. There's actually a discussion between Kyle and Luke, who were casting a match between two other robots. So Kyle was talking about overhead spinners, and he says, well, in the rock, paper, scissors, of combat robotics, like you have the vert, you have the horizontal, etc. The overhead spinner, in particular, is kind of like an apricot, not what you want in a battle to the death, just because the overhead has so many drawbacks. So Luke says, the rock, paper, scissors apricot of combat robotics. Yeah, because I get it, because rock smashes apricot, paper smothers apricot, scissors cuts apricot, so apricot's not doing too good. So when I was like, I'm going to make an overhead spinner, Apricot is going to be the name. I always do food for the names of my robots, since the first one. So yeah, that's the origin story of the name.
Man, that's pretty punk. I like it.
I basically picked the worst weapon type, you could say.
So now it's just
some would say the best.
Now it's about.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that at all. It's big.
I haven't run the statistics. I'm just gonna trust Kyle on this. He's usually on point with this type of stuff. So he's seen a fight or two.
Well, I hope he's watching in June when it sweeps.
Heck yeah!
No, that's impressive stuff.
Heck yeah!
Not really good to see it.
I like that Megatron. I like that Apricot is on Team SawBlaze. Megatron is not registered with Team SawBlaze. JMO, what the heck?
Hope I don't have to fight Megatron. That would suck.
Man, alrighty. Well, though we're mentioning June, we're gonna take a quick break. And I think we're going to go in towards June. So we'll see y'all soon.
We'll be right back after break.
Welcome back. So, before we go into our June predictions, we wanted to walk a bit through some of the questions some of the listeners have, specifically for Hot Wings. We touched a lot of them for Apricot already. So, first is from Sam at MetaRay on NHRL Discord. The first question we kind of already answered, so I'm going to focus on the second one. It said, have you considered using a different style actuator for the arms and buffalo wings? I feel like torque has been a limiting factor for you. I've been wondering about some sort of 4-bar linkage. Love the robot. Hope to see you do well in the future.
Yeah, so great question. Thanks. Torque is basically a requirement for buffalo wings to be able to self-right. So I do need a base level of torque just to flip over. That's what I'm designing towards. So with that level of torque, the speed becomes an issue, right? Because if it takes you several seconds to engage those arms, that's, you're limited by the pin duration. So I think if I did use maybe a different actuator that could be maybe a little quicker, maybe a little more torque, that could help a lot. I know Seth released a new motor recently. I'm always worried about weight as well. So that's definitely an area of potential improvement.
Gotcha. Excuse me. Continuing on from there, Gwen, the ref bot builder Jackalope, also asks, hey, Eli, big fan of the Wings family. She's got 2 questions. First of all, what restaurant has the best buffalo wings you ever had? Not necessarily a chain, just could be anywhere.
Buffalo wings. So I had the fortune of going through Buffalo, New York last year. Stopped at Barbill, I think is what it's called. One of the original Buffalo Wings places. I think those were the best wings I've ever had. So got to go to Buffalo, New York.
Are Buffalo Wings named
that's very
after
fitting.
Buffalo, New York? Is that true?
That's what the kids are saying.
That's not
your
true.
Discord saying all the time. Look, man, this is journalism, real-time fact-checking. We love to see it.
I'm fact checking. No way! Buffalo Wings are named after the city of Buffalo, New York. You're kidding.
There you go.
AI overview. That's a lie.
It's true, dude. You don't believe me and Google? Like,
look, 3, 4, 5, 3 different sources for that.
It's
that's a bummer.
At this point.
No way.
All right, next question, Brandon.
I'm sorry, that rocked my world.
So your builds for NHRL have been quite unconventional. Aside from combat robotics, what are some interesting or unexpected hobbies, maker type things you do in your free time?
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit already. Kind of was doing some cosplay things. Always been interested in robotics. This is kind of my outlet to do a little bit more creative, free form design. So I think combat robotics is a nice combination of those things, along with my more traditional engineering background. So mostly, I mean, I only have so much free time, so on the maker front, it's been limited. It's been limited to those few things.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's rough out here. Just a limited number of hours in the day.
Yep.
But then sort of going back to the machines, Maker Neko Miski asks, are the 2 arms essential to the hug design? Would it work if it was a single heating element, possibly one that can get hotter if there are any buffalo wings? Perhaps a single arm overhead attack bot style, or maybe it comes the way, or maybe it does the way it does to get around top armor configs.
No, totally would work. That's a great question. Great point. If I really had to cut down on weight, like Jake was saying, like if they nerf shufflers more, I might have to go to a single arm, more of like an overhead hammer saw type, robot configuration, just to save the weight. But as it is, I think the 2-arm hugging is really cool and really iconic, and I'm gonna keep doing that as long as I can. So hopefully that answers your question.
That's pretty cool. I can imagine you'd have, I guess, a true fire hammer in that case, or like a fire burner.
Mm-hmm.
If we neat little hybrid idea.
Yep.
Yeah. And then behind the bots, presenter emeritus Lindsay. Hey, Lindsay. She says, hello, Eli. Longtime fan of all your robots. What's a piece of advice you give to a new builder, especially one looking to build a new, unique design like the ones that you're so known for?
My advice would be to not do it. It's not worth it. It's going to be painful. It's going to be a struggle. But if you have the conviction, if you are willing to persist, my advice would be to just be true to yourself, be true to your original inspiration. Whatever idea you have, don't, stray too far from that. If you're going to commit to something that is like objectively a bad idea, you should just know what you're signing up for, and just be kind of realistic in terms of how it will perform and your expectations. So don't recommend it, but you can learn a lot. It's just you're not going to like win a dumpster, So that would be my 2 cents.
Yeah, and then the second part of that kind of touches on the point you were saying earlier about sort of that creativity aspect of it as well. But really, at a macro level, what motivates you best to pursue designs like these, and what part of the process is the most fun for you?
What motivates me and what is most fun? I think doing something without knowing the outcome. It's basically a type of experiment where you say, hey, I think if I, design this arm and put a hot end on the end of it, I think it could do some damage to, a drivetrain or to some wheels. So what's kind of satisfying is when you actually go into the box and you can make that happen. That's, really motivating, and that's like probably the most fun part. So kind of designing something new, seeing how it comes out, iterating on that. That's kind of the loop that I enjoy. It's very design focused, right? It's not necessarily based on winning. It's not necessarily based on, the results. It's more based on making it small improvements, like I said earlier in the podcast. So, yeah, I'm just a big fan of design, like trying new things out. So,
yeah, no, that's awesome stuff. I really appreciate the innovation there. Well, all right. Well, first of all, thank you for answering all the questions, Eli. Many great insights, especially about working on the wings line, as well as Apricot. Looking forward to that. Apricot, whatever. The fruit. Looking forward to the fruit. But now we're turning our attention forward, and we're looking forward to the June NHRL. So I guess since we're looking at the different weight classes, we can kind of probably start with the smaller one, sort of work our way to the bigger one.
Yeah.
This little one I'm more familiar with.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. So as far as the classes go, I guess a good place to start could be at 30-pounders.
Okay.
Oh, the 30-pounders. Yeah.
You're going to know more about this than me.
Well, yeah. I guess I'll just continue the flow there since I'm already looking at it. Yeah, the 30s scare me. I'll simplify it like that. It's not really a surprise that I'm bringing Phenomenon, and with Phenomenon, my eyes are squarely focused on Megatron because he's beaten me like 4 times, and it set me on fire one of them years ago. So I'm always gunning for Megatron, but that'd be foolish to ignore the other robots around me, like Overlord's massive vert. I fought Mirage a couple times, and really I look at like Red Storm with Kevin. Because he hasn't, I don't think he's come to NHRL this point this year. This is kind of like his big entry to make a run to qualify for the event last year. Because he got like 3rd place in the grand finals, or 4th. I think it was 3rd in the grand finals last year. And with a solid drivetrain, that's pretty worrying.
So what is the status of Phenomenon right now? Where are we at?
Yeah. Phenomenon's been a bit of testing for sure. So as far as the robot is, if you look at the teambodead.com blog, basically I've been trying to use the motor system. Oh, beautiful. I'm trying to get the hub motor going in the robot, but the issue has been that when you're looking at the hub motor system, it worked fairly well in 2024 because I had a thinner blade, and with it, I was a bit more conservative in the power I was putting into it. But when it fought Warhard at the grand finals, I think just for bracket, tore it in half, and it blew up the hub motor, which is a little concerning. It kind of still worked, but as soon as you like took it apart, you're like, oh, these things would not have lasted much longer. So I've been basically trying to wrestle with it since like February, actually Motorama in middle of February, and then up to RCL in California most recently and the beginning of May. And the hub motor just hasn't been working. And I kind of have an idea and kind of have some plans to try maybe a higher voltage with it, lower kV, get more torque out of it. But the issue kind of just is that the blade's more massive, which means it's fatter. The motor's like right at the limit of its power, and the ESC is running the risk of either killing itself trying to get the motor going or killing the motor trying to get it going. And it's just always at the edge of its level of energy. And so since I'm looking at the NHRL June event, I'm looking at bots like Megatron, Synthesis 30, Overlord, so on and so forth, the whole Georgia Tech crew, and even more around that. I'm kind of like, I'm gonna have to steal from Vorion a little bit. I have to try to use some of the other ideas going on here. And so the beauty of the two machines is that they are designed to be modular, so I can take one part to the other, one part of one put in the other. In the March event, I actually did that in order to get it going because the hub motor blew up the night before the event, which is pretty rough. And so I used that against the emulsifier. It got a fairly good fight. It's a pretty good time. But at the same time, it wasn't great. So I'm trying to basically get the system from Vorion into Phenomenon by doing a lot of work reshaping the center cradle area where the weapon system goes into and the chassis around it. A lot of electrical stuff, rewiring, stuff like that. Just to try to get it together, and at the same time, like planning configs. It's not great. I'm still working on it. I'm just had material arrive. It's worse than I'd like to be. I like to be way ahead of preparation, so it's a bit more labor than I'd like it to be. But it's going. It's going is the best way I can describe it.
Going.
Are
you debuting the bone boxes at this event?
So Bone Box that Seth made and I collaborated with, gave a lot of inputs with. Yeah. So I won't be running it this event just because the level of complexity on the weapon system got a lot worse because of the issues I mentioned earlier. Yeah. Because ideally those boxes are like a couple ounces lighter than the Versa box that I have in there, and at like an inch smaller, like they're not as long. And that saves a great amount of weight and space for the robot. But just because that'd be another variable I have to sort of work around, I'm going to save them. And in that sort of summer break we have between June to like October, I think is next event, I'm just going to be doing a lot of testing. Basically, those bone boxes and hub motors are like a dream combo. But I just got to like make a separate chassis and just run that in like the Hive's test cage at the summertime and just sort of figure out, get them both going. Because in the ideal world, if they work together, that'll be good going to the finals with that. But I think it's a little too much trying to cram it all in for June.
All right. So pick a winner out of the who do you think's gonna win 30s?
Bro, that's crazy.
Who do you have
in the field?
I know. I mean, you can pick yourself.
Crazy. Listen,
is that a compromising question?
I'm way too unworried.
You don't think so?
Well, hold on. Well, I see an Austin McCord on there.
Yeah, right.
What are his chances?
Yes,
they're Austin McCord.
Whatever a tumbler is, a four-wheel drive side-mounted tumbler. Look, they created that just for him. Okay. What the hell is a tumbler? That's not real.
All right.
It could be a dark horse, man.
I mean, I think when I see Tumbler, I think like the Batman, like Dark Knight Rises Batmobile. Like that was the Tumbler. So I'm thinking he's like driving the Batmobile into the box. That would win.
Tumbler.
That'd be pretty sick.
Wait, not like one of those? Like a Stanley Cup?
I guess.
Quad Stanley.
Maybe both of them.
Four-wheel drive tumbler. It's that. There you go. 4x4. Woohoo! 16.
4x4 tumbler.
Yeah, that. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what.
Maybe
he
it's
means.
both of those.
He means
It's like
side-mounted tumbler.
That jump rope.
Okay.
Hold on.
Does there in the chat?
Does the robot tumble, or does the robot tumble you?
Tumbler.
Right.
I gotta assume it does, right? Like the robot itself is doing weird stuff, right?
The only hint is the name is jump rope.
Tumbler.
Sam's confirming that it's real. That's a little concerning.
Jump rope W. It's
The
real.
4x4.
Well,
The 4x4 Stanley is real.
if it
Confirmed?
exists a week and a half
yeah.
before the event, who knows what it could be.
Dude,
Okay.
that's horrifying.
If I had to pick, well, I kind of put myself up for this. I think Red Storm's got it. I'm gonna be real.
Okay.
It's so tough. Kevin.
I would not bet against Kevin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin's pretty good.
Who you got, Eli?
I'm kind of
Who do I have?
the other ones though.
Yeah, you gotta pick one. We're gonna force
the way
this on you.
the way my predictions work is if Jameson Go is in the driver column, that's my pick. So I think Megastar is gonna take the third.
He's so real for that.
It's not that complicated, guys. Like,
dude, please. I just don't want to be set on fire again. I just want a robot left.
This is real ESPN. Go on ESPN bet. Put in your money on Jameson Go. Free money glitch.
It really
You
is.
heard it here first.
If he brought Psycho, it'd be the same thing for 12s.
Yeah.
Speaking of 12s.
All right into 12s. I can talk about 12s a little bit. Okay, so so we've got Apricot coming back, 22 inches of monarchy. That's an interesting dynamic. I hope they fight again. That would be hilarious. Full Court is back, baby. That's right. November 2023 never ended. Full Court is back. That is back, and Minor Threat 5 is back. Are we going to see a rematch from December of 2024? Because for those of you who don't follow 12s as hard as I follow 12s, and oh boy, I follow the 12s like it's like my life depends on it. Full Court was Full Court and Minor Threat met up in the semifinals. Minor Threat beat Full Court to go on to fight with Slam Plan in the finals. Slam Plan obviously taking that, but Minor Threat 5, Full Court. Are we going to see a rematch? What is that going to look like? Full Court looked terrifying at Finals 2024. It was fast. It was mobile. It was doing its thing. Love it or hate it, you're going to want to watch Sunday. Honeyfied coming back. The possible matchups that are going to be, I want to say Full Court's going to take it all again. The possible matchups that it could run into and not to get to that point that would be bad for it would be Honeyfied. It would be Minor Threat 5. It would be Caldera. These are robots that are good at beating Full Court. If Full Court encounters those on its way to the finals, it could be game over. If Full Court stays on the route of four-wheel drive vert, that isn't engineered to fight it, I think it's going all the way. If it gets that bad matchup, it's over. Also coming in, Weather Report, the walker in the 12-pound weight class right now. There are two right now, Galaxy and Weather Report. Weather Report's got a bit more events under its belt. So, what is that going to look like? It fell over a couple times and got stuck like that. But obviously, now that it's maturing a little bit, are we going to see that? Are we going to see that maturity kind of develop? Speaking of maturity, rip and tear, baby. We have not seen Casey Jeremiah with rip and tear since 2021. This is a 4-year-old robot. It beat Hot Leaf Juice at its prime. What are we going to see out of Rip and Tear? Is it going to be? It's going to be a mess in the box either way. How many spares did he bring? That's the question that will be answered. Of course, you have Ben Haas. Ben Haas, let me tell you, has been grinding with RoboCat at the UC Makerspace, my place of employment. So I have been watching him day in and day out. He's got 3 robots ready to go a week and a half early. The kid is all over it. He brought his first fully designed 12-pounder. Last time he got knocked out, not to a robot, but because we were too slow in the pits, but he's come back. He's re-engineered the thing. It looks great. He's ready to go. He's fired up. That UC energy, I love to see it. Speaking of big verts, we've got Blue Marlin.
The fish.
Feed the fish.
The fish. Feed the fish. Always, always feed the fish. Came in second place in January of 2024. Has not been able to quite repeat that success. Again, it's a robot that if it stays on the right track will go deep. If the fish can thread the needle, it can, and get those good matchups for it, it will go deep. Of course, also from Team Defective, Promheta and Carmen. Carmen coming off a big W at Motorama 2025, the Motorama 2025 champion. A disappointing showing back in May. I think it got some, I want to say Carmen luck, but Carmen luck, and it got knocked out.
Karma,
I think a little prematurely. Not Karma. He didn't do anything wrong.
Not Karma.
It would be Karma if
wrong,
he did something wrong, but it
rhymes.
just happens. It just happens.
It just
It
rhymes.
just happens.
It just rhymes.
That's the rundown of the 12-pound weight class. That's your situation. Anything else on here? I don't know what it is, except for, there's a couple in here that I know, but I think I've mentioned all the ones that I know. That's your 12-pound weight class. Who is going to take it? Brandon Bennett Young.
Darn, there's really good robots here. I would still probably say full court, not because it's going to win everything handily, but just because I think Coleman is smart enough and clever enough that when he looks at the robots, he'll have some idea for them. I don't think the robots can counter it quite as well. And I think that gets me advantage still. Love the other machines, though, but I just think full court, like as far as designed to win and ability to execute it, is still very good at doing so.
Yeah. So as far as yeah. Okay.
Don't count Eli though.
Yeah,
He's in there.
Good points. I mean, I'm in the mix, but I'm gonna have to go with Big Frank. I think. I mean, I didn't hear you talk about him at all, Jake. But Big Frank. He's just so big. He's just so big, and I mean,
Big Frank.
I would never bet against him.
He's big.
So
He's big.
that's my take.
He's
Never.
literally called
What
Big
are you
Frank.
thinking?
Bet against Big Frank.
Big Frank.
My top 4.
How about you, Jake?
I'm gonna do a full top 4. I've got a full court minor threat 5 final. I'm gonna be real with you. Sitting at home right now, I've got a full court minor threat 5 final again. I don't know who takes it. I think full court's got the advantage. But those robots, minor threat 5 is a fighting robot, like at its core. I see that in the final. I see Promheta and I see Carmen going up against those two. Those are my top 4 right now. Those are my top 4.
So
Carmen, full court, minor threat 5. Hard to choose.
I'm curious
Hard
about like the horizontals maybe playing a role in that. Like between Honeyfied, the Bombers, Rip and Tear. I'm not Rip and Tear is going to be per se, but I'm thinking an Apricot, 22 inches. I'm curious how they will play in Grim Reaper. Here's how they're going to play into the game, because I know we're vert heavy. I know verts do statistically very, very well, but at the same time, Honeyfied, great run. The Bombers looked promising, just had very rough pulls against, I think it was like Psycho and Promhead, something like that. Earlier, I think it was last year, maybe this year, I forget. Time's fast. But like the horizontal game has been evolving. And I think that will be interesting to see it evolve compared to the verts.
The horizontals are going to be the spoilers. The horizontals are going to be the spoilers. Whoever hits those horizontals wrong in the bracket is going to throw everything else off. There's 3 or 4 very good, very viable horizontals in the mix. Whoever hits those is going to get eliminated for later in the day. I think the horizontal matchups early in the day are going to determine the pace later in the day. I really do.
In the case of Apricot,
I agree.
I mean, the horizontals are devolving, actually.
Impossible. That's a really good fruit.
Oh, wow.
We'll see it play out in real time. Just wait and see.
We will. Oh, we will all see. All right. I don't know anything about threes. Someone else, I've been yapping. Someone else yapped about the threes. I don't know anything about them.
You know anything, Eli, or do you want me to
I
go
built
on
a few.
for a little?
I built a few threes. Who we got? I haven't been paying attention at all. I know Seems Reasonable is coming out to this event. They have some some exciting robots. Yes, very much so. Keep an eye out for Boopster.
Yeah,
as well as Dutch Oven. Yeah.
Oh, Dutch Oven is back.
I also might go the same as Eli there. Correct. This is a West Coast invasion for sure. Because without, I mean, full court minor threat for sure. You definitely think like more Western coming in, but even the threes. Because if you've seen Boopster, by the way, if you haven't, check out the Scorpio Splitter blog, the video about it. Because it's basically a hammer saw, so kind of like SawBlaze, let's say, where it starts from the top, but it also articulates the bottom and chops from the bottom and is able to start undercut it. Because it's a very good question. If you armor your top plate up a ton, but someone has the base plate, which is not nearly as armored, you can be screwed over just as fast, if not worse, because all the stuff lays in the base plate because of gravity, and it's not going to be as thick compared to top plate because you're limited by your height of your drivetrain. So even that, as just an idea, I think is really, really cool. So I'm really curious to see how that one just plays out at large. There's also a bajillion 3-pounders, so
yeah,
you can only touch on a few of them.
It's a slugfest, as always, right? With the Beatles, there's a lot of overhead saws. This event, the overhead has been getting more and more popular, more and more successful. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of those goes the distance. Also, a couple big wheels. Peter is bringing another one. I think that's new. So a lot of shakeups could happen here. It's always a crapshoot, I think, with the Beatles. I mean,
it's such a crapshoot. It's just a crapshoot. It's such a crapshoot.
So many fights and so many good robots. Monkfish is going to be there. I mean, they're a top tier contender. Honestly, I mean, I might put my money on them. Like, just seeing their name there for like 2 seconds. Yeah, that's going to be one to watch.
Yep.
Here's the thing to remember, though. We do have Jelly Baby returning. Jelly Baby, and we all may remember.
Yeah.
Did recently win a dumpster.
Yep. Can't deny that.
So imagine Lifter back-to-back dumpster. Not going to put too much more pressure on you, Paige, than maybe you already have. But I've seen how good that robot is. And as excellent as many of these machines are, new and old, there's something to be said about rugged reliability and well-controlled machines. And I think that a bot such as Dutch Oven can certainly mix that up a bit just because of the nature of flame bots. At the same time, just because you have, such a huge number, what is it, like 96 3-pounders all hanging around, the way that you can go through an event just makes it tricky. And I think as far as like just versatile every machine or like the ability to handle most machines, Jelly Baby is still pretty good. I think it's just a very solid machine.
For sure. I think if you're Paige, you got to watch out for the overhead hammer saws. Those could do a lot of damage while you're getting pinned. Yeah. The flamethrowers as well. It's probably a bad matchup, but we'll see how the cards fall, I would say. Sad Octopus on there, a lot of really good returning bots.
Lots of excellent stuff out here. So should be an exciting NHRL for sure. One I definitely think is not lacking on bots to look for, storylines to watch for, and probably a very exciting end, I'd imagine. Like if even a fraction of these robots that are coming out here and just we're seeing in the registration lineup make it to prime time, it's going to be quite a slugfest. I think from 30s to 3s, it's going to be a pretty violent time.
Okay,
that's pretty good.
I think. Do you want to do robots around the world and then play us out?
That's right. Well,
okay.
Then, time for robots around the world. So, for this week, from China, Unitary Robotics is hosting their first humanoid robot boxing match. Using their G1 robot frame, which you kind of mentioned a few weeks ago, the company showcased the robot doing boxing training with a human trainer, which included taking hits and knockdowns and getting back up again. The company later posted a much longer video this past week of the robots in a full-on boxing match. So, what do you think of this new innovation in humanoid robotics?
You know, I embrace the new. I am not like Luke. I will not be Luke. I will embrace every horrible development that happens with humanoid robots. I don't care. Go ahead.
Man, every horrible development.
Every horrible development.
Man. All right, so here's a thought that came up about it. It's like, okay, so you can program the machines. First of all, real still comparison, very, very real now. Have anyone ever thought before, hey, when you say you're fighting robots, are you fighting like real steel? It's like, yes, now they are, or at least trying to. And so the part that I'm kind of curious about is, okay, if we're going to get that much and they get humanoid boxing robots, isn't the presumption now that in theory you could just bulk them up more and more and more, and eventually you don't ever have to worry about like what is it, like a dead boxing match? I just remember like watching what was it, like Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. Like, good on him for getting through it, but at the same time, it's kind of like, aw, because you knew he was already sort of in the back foot there, his old man. But like in this level, it's like, oh man, they could just program them just like hit harder for longer and just kind of keep going at it and have like a guaranteed consistency of it. But it's also kind of odd. It's like the entertainment, I suppose, that's being taken out first. You know, kind of like you imagine like the more industrial jobs first. They're kind of like, no, boxing first. And you're kind of like, odd way of going about it.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. I'm just going to put that there. Terrible idea.
None of that.
Terrible execution. These things can barely walk around as it is. Like now you got them taking punches. They're just it's gonna be like a Beetle fight from 2022, like what we were saying earlier, where one just flips over.
They all look the same. They all look the same. Every Beetle fight looks the same. Every Beetle fight from 2022 looks the exact same. It's one robot beating the absolute pants off of a FingerTech beater bar, which is usually the other robot.
Yeah. So it's effectively a novelty at that point. You're gonna see it once. You're gonna be like, "Oh, that was cool." And the second time you see the fight, you're going to be like, this is the most boring thing I've ever seen. There is no variability. There's no storyline. There's no personality. And it's not even good. Like, put one of these against Megatron. Megatron would just, like, rip its legs off. Yeah. Enough said, I think.
Dang. You know, respect.
Stop making robots take away. No, I'm not done crashing out. Okay.
Okay.
Stop making robots.
Okay, crash out.
Okay. Keep going, dude.
Stop making robots that take away our human fun things. Okay.
Our human fun things is like punching each other.
Robots that do sports. Yeah. Like make the robots like clean the gutters and like go into the sewers. And like go into the nuclear reactor, okay? Like make robots that do that stuff. Like don't have to be like playing basketball. Like we can do that. Like come on.
I like how your two examples were cleaning out the gutters and basketball. That says a lot about your.
That is the human experience.
That is what defines the human experience: is cleaning out you're either cleaning out the gutters or you're playing basketball, dude. There are two things that define the human experience.
I did not stutter, and I will not take it back.
I'm not done crashing out. Eli, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. This was fantastic. You're a gentleman. I can't wait to see your robot. next week at June NHRL. Brandon, I cannot wait to see your robot at June NHRL. I'm sure everyone will have fun, which is the most important part.
I cannot wait to see my robot either at June NHRL because it's not complete yet. So should be a good time.
And you're on a podcast right now instead of, wrapping things up.
I'm not
That sounds like a good
it,
use of time.
I got my 3D printer back here, man. Like,
that's so true. That's a robot doing its job, huh?
We will be live again June
example.
17th with another mystery guest. We'll see who it is then. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. This was tons of fun. Later, guys.
Bye.